I want you to do your research and spread truth, which is liberation. People are living lies. Our history has been completely changed in order to meet the lives of this country.
And it's known as written that the righteous shall inherit the kingdom of God, the earth, and the wicked shall be shaken out.
All right, one at a time, y'all. We got the Incredible Hulk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
Stop the music. Yo, 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 yo. Peace to the tribes, peace to the tribes. You know the vibes. It is either inevitable, the Incredible Hulk, and this is Hawk School for the gifted and the elect, and we are broadcasting live from the emphatically immaculate Republic of Atlantis. We had some minor difficulties, all right, some major difficulties with our sound when we were doing our last build on the Knights of Peter Claver and their connection to the usurping of Americas and lands beyond. But hopefully the sound is much better, and we're going to actually get to the root of how we got to find these knights, right? It actually began with the Barbarous Mexico book, right? And I believe we have that on deck. All right, we're going to get into that Barbarous Mexico, which is very interesting. Actually, do we have a page here? Let's get straight to it, all right? Let's get straight to it, and then we'll crank the music back up. I'm just going to read an excerpt, all right? And this is from the author, all right, in Chapter 2, The Extermination of the Yaquis. And the author says, my real purpose in journeying to Yucatán was to find out what became of the Yaqui Indians of Sonora, in common with thousands of other Americans, I said Americans, who have lived for years in our southwest and near the borderline of Mexico. I knew something of the suffering of the Yaquis in their native state, of the means which had been taken to stir them to revolt, of the confiscation of their lands, of the methods of extermination employed by the army, of the indignation voiced by the element of Sonora, finally of President Diaz's sweeping order of deportation. And we're just going to stop there, all right, and give you a minute to digest all that. And that image you saw in the beginning, of course, was a Yaqui Indian, all right, a couple Yaqui Indians on Exile Road, as it's called. Oh, yeah, this is going to be one of them ones, so share the live stream, all right? We got plenty lined up, and we're going to do the show and prove, all right, with primary sources per usual. There will be some vocabulary, and we'll be connecting major dots, all right, to these knights who have rewritten history and omitted you from your story.
What is real? How do you define real? Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
You really see it when you're looking for a Christ man, the one who anointed with the Lord, with the Spirit of the Lord, to do his will. I'm that nigga.
cut down to the ground. You who weakened the nation.
You gon' smell my cologne. Yaqui on some bar number 9, cause I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
The sanctuary, cause we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, Pimp.
What has he really done for y'all? Or do y'all only accept him because your pastors that you listen to on YouTube told y'all to accept him?
Cover up! The Aboriginal member of our people here in the West.
All right, one at a time, y'all. We got the Incredible Hulk in the building. What's up, man?
You gon' smell my cologne. Yaqui on some bar number 9, cause I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
The sanctuary, cause we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, Pimp.
Yo. Peace to the tribes, peace to the tribes. You know the vibes. Let's get my main share up here. All right. And let's get to this. These Yaqui Indians. All right. And how I was able to connect the dots. Let me get these images up here first, because you know these guys love to say, well, he doesn't have the book. All right. And I'll continue the reading where he goes on to say, I knew of the order of deportation was being carried out, that hundreds of families were being gathered up monthly and sent away into exile. Put some gems in the chat if you could hear me loudly and clearly, please. And please share the live stream, as we will be revealing the truth of the whitewashing of the true inhabitants of the land. And just to give you some insight, all right, for these guys who don't know, all right. There's Sonora on the map, all right, where these Indians are being exiled from. Let's get a little clarity on that. All right, and as you see, Tucson, Phoenix is right above it. El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Houston. All right, Sonora. Okay, and these Indians have been cornered, all right, by these Knights Templars and these Buffalo Soldiers. All right, these Indian hunters, and they've been cornered, right, and put into indentured servitude, which the author refers to as slavery, and the book is from 1908, so it's going to be very problematic for those who don't understand the concept of servitude. I digress. So as you can see, all right, these Sonora Indians, all right, are being cornered, all right? They're being pushed all the way to the corner, all right, because these are Mayans, right, Yaqui Indians who have been, are being exterminated, all right, and this is in the early 1900s, all right, so just for those who are confused about where they are, all right, and whether or not they're from the Americas, okay, because I believe Let's go to some vocabulary, why don't we, before we get into the reading. All right. American. 1570s, originally one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by Europeans, right? From modern Latin Americanus, allegedly from America, right? The original sense is now Native Americans. The sense of residents of North America of European descent from 1765. Now, a lot of guys are having problems explaining this whole Aboriginal concept, this American Indian concept, and they're being falsely led to believe that it has something to do with Australians. And that's because they don't understand the English language, okay? Actually, the land of Australia, which literally means southern land from austral, right? Because we have the 1805 Webster's Compendious Dictionary, and the word Australia has yet to exist, right? So we know this to be a fact. However, this Australia idea comes from Terra Australis, I believe, if I recall correctly, and it was called New Holland up until 1814. So let's get into this. All right, let's prove this and get this out of the way, so there's no confusion about who these Americans are, all right, who are being exiled, or any confusion about these American Indians, these Aboriginals. All right, let's go on. Let's move on a little. We'll continue with this definition of American 1590s pertaining to the Western Hemisphere and its, and I quote, Aboriginal inhabitants. All right? Pertaining to the residents of North America of European, originally British descent, is recorded by 1640s, pertaining to the United States. All right, a little late. Now, let's continue on. Let's go to Aboriginal, all right, because we want to understand who these people are, whose land is being taken, and who's being exiled. All right? Aboriginal, right? Because American takes us to Aboriginal. So let's go to Aboriginal. Aboriginal adjective, 1660s, all right? First, earliest existing from the beginning, especially in reference to inhabitants of lands colonized by Europeans from Aborigines, see Aborigine, plus AL. The specific Australian sense is attested from 1820. I said the specific Australian sense is attested from 1820. So in the sense of Aboriginal relating to Australia is attested from 1820, guys. All right, and we see that this word Aboriginal existed since 1660, right? And it says American existed since 1570. So if the noun referring to a inhabitant of Australia, all right, hasn't been around until 1840, right? Because it says pertaining to the Western Hemisphere and its Aboriginal inhabitants since 1590s. Let's go to Aborigine. A person, all right? Let me get this on the screen. A person, animal, or plant that has been in a country or region from the earliest times is from 1858. A mistaken singular of Aborigines. 1540s Aboriginal is considered the correct singular in English. All right? From Latin Aborigines, the first inhabitants, especially of Latium, hence the first ancestors of the Romans. This is possibly a tribal name, or from or made to conform to the Latin phrase ab origine, which literally means from the beginning. All right. And then they want to say, well, ab is away from. All right. Well, ab is actually coming from the Greek apo. All right. If we want to accept that theory of ab origine being from the original, then ab is a word forming meaning away from, off, down. Oh, that's very misleading. Separation, departure, off, away from. And this is what they like to build on, right? But it says in reference to space or distance, also of time, from the pi root apo, off, away. Also, the source of Greek apo, off, away from Sanskrit, blah, 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 away from. But then it goes on to say English of and off. See, apo, because see, of the original, right, has the same origin as off, right? If we go to apo, which is the origin of ab, right, we'll see that of, its element meaning of the original, from the original. Why didn't they go to apo? It said if you go to ab, go to apo if you want to know more about what it really means and where it came from. Why are these conversations so hard to clarify, for lack of better terms? And I'll continue to read. Meaning of, all right, of the original, from the original, away from, separate, apart from, free from Greek apo, from, away from. All right, so as you see, these words are very witchy, for lack of better terms. From, away from, after, in, descent from, all right, descended from the original. It compounds asunder, off, finishing, completing, back again, all right? So the original, back again, and I quote, when dealing in time, right? After, when dealing of origin, sprung from, descended from, all right? Sprung from the original, descended from the original because of the original. So this whole concept of, oh, it's away from the original is just a misconception due to their lack of understanding of the elements of the English language. And again, I'll reiterate here, as you see, Australoid is of the type of the Aboriginal inhabitants of Australia, right? This is 1864, folks. We're talking about a word from 1590s. This is nearly 3 centuries later that you see it being associated with Australia. And again, I will reiterate, Australia from Latin, Terris Australia, 16th century. So this is nearly 250 years, right? 250 years from Australis, southern, hypothetical southern continent known as Terra Australis Incognita, right? Land of the South Unknown, had been proposed since 2nd century Dutch explorers called the New Found Continent. What did they call it, folks? Did they call it Australia? Well, no, they called it New Holland. I said they called the New Found Continent New Holland, folks. They didn't call it Australia. The current name was suggested in 1814, again, almost more than 200, nearly 300 years later, by Matthew Flinders as an improvement over Terra Australis, as being more agreeable to the ear and an assimilation to the name of the other great portions of the earth. All right, so see, as again, you see that these people just have a lack of understanding on the way the English language has been assembled. All right, New Holland, Terra Australis as being more agreeable to the ear and an assimilation to the name of other, great portions of the earth. And I'm continuing to give you the whole definition so these guys don't think we're cherry picking the English language. All right. Shout out to everybody that's tuned in. Shout out to everybody that rocks with the channel, all right? Because we really dropping jewels over here, and we're going to show how these Yaqui Indians been exiled, their land stolen by these knights, all right? Also known as the Order of the Bath, which you saw some imagery of the royalty of Britain, who are all members of this order. In 1817, Governor Lachlan Macquarie, I believe, having read Flinders' suggestion, began using it in official correspondence. The ultimate source is Latin auster, south wind, hence the South Country. See, austral, all right, from 16th century. Well, let's go see austral. Why don't we? We got a little time, folks. Southern, okay, of or pertaining to the South, 1540s. From Latin australis, from auster, south wind, south, all right? Literally goes back to aus, which means to shine. And that's a whole nother conversation when we start dealing with Austria. All right. But as you see, Aboriginal and Australia have nothing to do with one another. These words are centuries apart. All right. So let's get that out of the way. I digress. This is a remnant of Yaqui Indian as well, all right? And there are some who will say, well, he's not a Negro, all right? But I don't know if Walter Plecker would necessarily agree with you. Here we see a depiction from the Library of Congress of Yaqui Indians lynched. By who, folks? By Mexicans. Wait, what?
Tribe, you are now live with the incredible host. Wow, this is Hope School for the Gifted and the Elect.
No, we don't want to keep that on the screen too long because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And here's that Mexican cavalry. All right, you see soldiers everywhere in Diaz land. And you have some guys amongst us who don't know the true history of America, and they'll tell you these guys in their hats are actually Moorish, okay?
I'm on the way to the emergency. I hear shots! Okay, ma'am, calm down. What kind of shots?
Yeah, these guys, these ISIS types, all right, they have whole videos up, all right, talking about these hats, all right, of the murderers, for lack of better terms, of the original inhabitants of the Americas, as we've learned just so short ago, the Americans. All right? This is the Mexican cavalry. All right? And we have primary sources for all of these things. Where is that newspaper clipping? Did I get that up? All right. 1,500 Indians shipped to the Yucatan. All right, and we're going to do a bit of review from the previous one, just for those who aren't aware. All right, and how these people were being transported off of their land. All right, and their land being stolen from them. These Americans. All right, if you will, because we know these lines are imaginary. All right, and you can see the depiction of these people, all right, still, even in the 1900s. Now, there are those who would say that this woman is not a Negro, all right, and that she doesn't have a scarf on her head and appearing to be dressed as a Saracen, or what one would say, Moorish, all right. But it's going to be hard to debate that. Let's get into some more reading, all right, so we can show and prove. Because this book is actually how I got to understanding how this order works. Because here's Diaz, all right? So when you hear me talking about Diaz reading from the book, well, there he is, all right?
All right, one at a time, y'all. We got the Incredible Hulk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
And it was through my researching Diaz, all right, because this was the man said to be responsible for deporting the Yaqui Indians, all right. And just to give you a little background on this guy here, he is Porfirio Diaz, all right, Jose de la Cruz Porfirio Diaz, known simply as Porfirio Diaz, was a Mexican general, politician, and later dictator who served 7 terms as president of Mexico, a total of 35 years, folks, from 28th of November 1876, all right, all the way to May of 1911. This entire period from 1876 to 1911 is often referred to as the Porfiricio, term given to the period when the general Porfirio Diaz ruled Mexico as president in the late 19th and early 20th century, coined by Mexican historian Daniel Cosio Villegas, seizing power in a coup. I said seizing power in a coup, folks, in 1876.
Subscribe to the Unconquered Tribe. You are now live with the Incredible.
Yes, it is quite troubling. That's my pale-faced shooter, all right? Make sure you bang the light. Let's just read a bit from his book, and I have some pages, all right? Just because I knew these guys love to act as if we're not doing the actual research, all right? He says, I knew that the order of deportation, and this is the author speaking, was being carried out, that hundreds of families were being gathered up monthly and sent away into exile. But what fate was awaiting them there at the end of that exile road? The answer was always vague, indefinite, unsatisfactory. Even well-informed Mexicans of their country's metropolis could not tell me. After the Yaqui exile sailed from the port of Veracruz, the curtain dropped upon them. I went to Yucatan in order to witness, if possible, the final act in the life of drama of the Yaqui nation, and I witnessed it. The Yaquis are being exterminated, and exterminated fast. There is no room for controversy as to that. The only controversy relates to whether or not the Yaquis deserve to be exterminated. It is undoubtedly true that a portion of their number have persistently refused to accept the destiny that the government has marked out for them. All right? So they refuse to leave. They're still fighting. That was the exile road. This is the 1900s, folks. All right? Let me go to this other page. Let's get that out of here now that we've read it. All right, and again, these are those who live for years in our southwest and near the borderline of Mexico. All right, just so you know who we're talking about. All right, exterminating these people. It says, during my journeys in Mexico, I inquired many times as to the authenticity of this dispatch, and the story was confirmed. It was confirmed by men in the public departments of Mexico City. It was confirmed by Colonel Cruz, chief deporter of Yaquis, and it is certain that such an order, wherever it may have come from, was carried out. Yaqui working men were taken daily from mines, railroads, and farms. Old working men who never owned a rifle in their lives. Women, children, babes. The old and the young, the weak and the strong. Guarded by soldiers. I said guarded by soldiers and rurales. They traveled together over the Exile road, and there are others beside Yaquis who traveled over that road, Pimas and Opatas. Other Indians, Mexicans, and any dark people found who were poor and unable to protect themselves were taken, tagged as Yaquis, and sent away to the land of Hennequin. What becomes of them there, this is what I went to the Yucatan to find out, all right? So we don't need to look up the etymology of dark, all right, because these guys will fight tooth and nail, all right, to prove to you that you are a Negro, that you are dark, that you are black, all right? But these people were being exterminated, all right? Exile Road, all right? Being exterminated by these knights. And you see these knights are in the Americas, the knights of the Golden Circle, all right? These same knights are the usurpers of your names and lands and deeds, all right? These so-called 5 Christianized tribes, all right? They're all in cahoots against you. Here again, a scene in a Yaqui quote-unquote bullpen on the Exile Road between Sonora and Yucatan, and you can see all of these women veiled up, all right? There's even the woman here hiding her face, all right? You can see this child with a turban on, all right? And they're being exterminated, folks. They're being exterminated by some order, all right, that has not ceased to exist. Sad to say. I'll read some more from the book. Beans, tortillas, fish. I suppose that they can at least keep alive on it. This is the author. I told myself, provided they do no worse at the other 2 meals. By the way, I turned to the administrator who was showing us about what do they get at the other 2 meals. The other 2 meals? The administrator was puzzled. The other 2 meals? There aren't any others? This is the only meal they have? Beans, tortillas, fish, once in a day and a dozen hours under the hottest sun that is ever shown? But no, the administrator corrected himself. They do get something else, something very fine too, something that they can carry to the field with them and eat when they wish. Here is one now. And this he picked up from one of the tables of the women as something about the size of his 2 small fists and handed it to me triumphantly. I took the round, soggy mass in my fingers, pinched, smelled, and tasted it. It proved to be corn dough, half fermented and patted into a ball. This, then, was the other 2 meals, the rest of the substance, besides beans, tortillas, and decayed fish, which sustained the toilers throughout the long day. I turned to who, folks? To a young Maya, who was carefully picking a fish bone. Which would you rather be? I asked of him, a half-timer or a full-timer? A full-timer, he replied promptly, and then in a lower tone, they work us until we are ready to fall. Then they throw us away to go get strong again. If they worked the full-timers like they worked us, they would die. We come to work gladly, said another young Maya, because we're starved to it. But before the end of the first week, we want to run away. That is why they lock us up at night. Why don't you run away when you're free to do it? I asked. When they turn you out, I mean. The administrator has stepped away to scold the woman. It's no use, answered the man earnestly. They always get us. Everybody is against us, and there's no place to hide. They keep our faces on photographs, said another. They always get us and give us a cleaning up, beating. Besides, when we're here, we want to run away, but when they turn us out, we know that it's no use. I was afterward to learn how admirably the Yucatan country is adapted to preventing the escape of runaways. I said preventing the escape of runaways. No fruits or eatable herbs grow wild in that rocky land. There are no springs and no place where a person can dig a well without a rock drill and dynamite. So every runaway in time finds his way to a plantation or to the city, and at either place he is caught and held for identification. A free laborer who does not carry papers to prove that he is free is always liable to be locked up and put to much trouble to prove that he is not a runaway slave. Yucatan has been compared to Russia's Siberia. Siberia, quote unquote. Mexican political refugees have told me, quote unquote, is hell frozen over? Yucatan is hell aflame. But it did not see many points in common between the two countries. True, the Yaquis are exiles in a sense, and political exiles at that, but they are also slaves. I said they are also slaves. The political exiles of Russia are not slaves. According to Kennan, they are permitted to take their families with them, to choose their own abode, to live their own life, and are often given a small monthly stipend on which to live. I could not imagine Siberia as being bad as Yucatan. So now you understand how these Russians end up being called Siberian folks, who are creating these tribes and bringing their pagan rituals to the Americas. All right, and they tell you they're Siberians. The Yucatan slaves get no hour for lunch, as does the American ranch hand. He goes to the field in the morning twilight, eating his lump of sourdough on the way. He picks up his machete and attacks the first thorny leaf as soon as it's light enough to see the thorns, and he never lays down that machete until the twilight of the evening. 2,000 of the big green leaves a day is his stint, quote unquote, and besides cutting, trimming, and piling them, he must count them, and he must count the number of leaves on each plant and be sure that he does not count too many nor too few. All right. And they're just talking about these these Hennecken plantations. All right, if you're not familiar, let me pull that up real quick. And the Yucatan, I should have had that up. All right, the Hennecken industry. All right, is an agribusiness of plant native to the Yucatan, Mexico. After extraction from the plant, Hennecken is processed as a textile. All right, various forms to obtain a range of products for domestic, commercial, agriculture, and industrial use. All right, this is something that's been going on, what it says, in 1898. All right, so this is about the same time that they're taking all of this over, taking over these plantations. All right. Hennecken drying in the sun because it's used for ropes. All right, it's kind of like hemp. It can be used for clothing, things of that sort. All right, and shout out to, who was that who said, see, because these Africans, all right, and these Koreans, all right, they were taking your names, joining these lodges, taking your names, all right, and somebody told me that they weren't signing up for slavery. They were definitely signing up for slavery. I don't want to get too distracted, but here you see from the Library of Virginia, a petition, all right, for re-enslavement. Oh yeah, we got it on deck, all right. This collection contains petitions of free black individuals choosing to be re-enslaved. An act passed by the Virginia General Assembly in 1806 required formerly enslaved people to leave, all right. And we have the whole petition, all right, where these guys are asking to be enslaved. Why would they do that, Hawk? All right, and I don't want to get too off topic, all right, but all of these things go together. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? All right, and here's, again, this is from the free Negroes and mulattoes, all right, a registry, and this is the primary source from 1807, where these people are calling themselves yellow, brown, yellow, black, all right, dark yellow, all right. They're born free. Let me zoom in so you can see that. Oh, shit. Damn, that's fucked up. I think I done closed everything. We'll get back to the ship lists. Because all of these things correlate. Why would they? Why would they want to be freedmen? All right. Why would they want to be freedmen? As we know, these brotherhoods, all right, who are these orders, all right, who are doing these sort of things. All right, these freedmen. All right. Let's just a qualification, because see, this is a qualification, of candidates according to the custom and regulations of our ancient brethren. Every candidate was required to be a freedman. All right. Born of a free woman. This formula was originally considered to be an unchangeable landmark, but on the extinction of Negro slavery in the West Indies by the British Parliament, the following arguments were used at Grand Lodge meeting September 1st, 1847, in favor of its alteration. The Grand Master requested the brethren to consider the propriety of remodeling the form by which a candidate for initiation declared himself to be, quote-unquote, freeborn. There are, he said, at the present moment, many men in Jamaica and other places who are free by law of emancipation. All right, these would be these African slaves, these affranchis. And yet their mothers, having been slaves, they cannot conscientiously sign such a declaration, knowing it to be untrue, and in the absence of the preliminary act, we cannot initiate them. I should be glad to see it altered, and therefore move that in future we substitute the words quote-unquote free agent for freeborn, and that the declaration be thus revised. After a friendly conversation which lasted some time, it was unanimously resolved that the phrase in future should be freeman, and that the words freeborn should be canceled. Thus the Lodge of England changed the words freeborn in their constitution to freeman. The lodges in Canada, Australia, and other grand lodges followed. The colored lodges and Grand Lodge of America, believing that all men are born free and equal, created by one almighty parent, and that no man has a right to rob him of that which God gave him, however, strictly adhered to the ancient usages and customs of the craft. Never at any time have they changed the qualifications for candidates for masonry. Previous to 1865, none but freemen were made masons.
I wonder what the emergency. I hear shots! Okay, ma'am, calm down. What kind of shots?
With the incredible home. Wow, this is house school for the gifted and the elect. live with the incredible host.
Wow,
This
Indian
is Hulk
TV.
School for the gifted and the elect.
Man, I cannot believe y'all couldn't hear me. When did this shit happen, man? When did this shit happen, bro? Because I'm just going in, bro, and my shit's muted. I'm really getting tired of these brotherhoods, man. All right, we'll have to edit it. Fuck them. All right, we'll start from the top. The alcaldes, all right, the traditional Spanish municipal magistrates. I don't know how far back. Let's do some shout outs. Let's shout some people out. All right, and take a minute. Slow down. We'll read this medieval origin of the alcaldes. All right, because I know they don't. Let's say 5 to 10 minutes. Are you kidding me, bro? That's cool. We'll edit it out. All right, we'll chop it up, make pieces of the video because I know it's too much for many to digest anyway. And you know, at the end of the video, please leave a comment. All right, and tap in, type Hawk Live. All right, Hawk Live or Hawk Talk Live if you want us to keep doing the live streams. All right, because I've been thinking about editing the videos, you know, but I like to interact with the people and see the questions. You know what I'm saying? At the same time. And it's very troubling to me, all right, that I have these sound issues every time I seek to show and prove. Did you hear the reading of the book? Put a 1 in the chat if you heard a reading of the book, and I'm gonna run it back and see who I can shout out. Shout out Alexis B, You're the Vilified, David Bell, Jeremy Royster, Alexis B, Tribe, Yamaha Gold in the building. Who else we got in here? Strive for Jana, Assalamu Alaikum, Ina 0407, Hannah Bali, Kendley, Tribe, Dynasty, straight off the top, Kusa, Peace Kusa. We coming through with the motherfucking proof. You know, we the truth like we usually do. All right, showing and proving how these Yaqui Indians, these Saracens, for lack of better terms, all right, are being exterminated and exiled out of their own land, along with the Mayans, who were the true heirs of the land and who controlled the land. All right, the alcaldes, the judges from the Arabic al-Qadi. So you have to ask yourself, well, why are these Mayans, or these alcaldes, why are they learning Islamic jurisprudence and ruling the jurisdictions, right, with Islamic jurisprudence, and suddenly a Catholic order comes through, and we see, all right, from the reading in the beginning that it's even in their own history, all right, that this is a coup d'etat, all right, by Senor Diaz. And for every one Yaqui, all right, that is being exterminated, 10 Mayas. There are 10 Mayas to one Yaqui, all right? Palaces, they're being usurped, all right? And then we're being taught that everybody's uncivilized. Shout out Navi Poet in the building. Tribe, DJ ZPE in the building. Ellie Tolbert in the building. Put some gems in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear, all right? And I apologize for that, you know? Shit happens. I got a lot to keep track of, respectfully, all right? So this order, all right, because we clearly see that he belongs to this same order, and that's the order of the bath, and I'm going to have to do a separate build on that because it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit, all right? But here's just in a nutshell, no Diddy, all right? This is the Order of the Bath, all right? The Order of the Bath is a special order of knights which recognizes the work of senior military officials and civil servants. To be a Knight of Dame Grand Cross of Order recognizes the highest British military order obtainable. Historic figures who have been members of the order include Nelson Wellington, Earl Haig, and Lord Kitchener, all right? So this is the order. Consists of 120 knights and dames Grand Cross, 295 knights and dames commanders, and 1,455 companions. All right, in addition to the sovereign and great master and blah, blah, blah. All right. 3 joined in 1. All right, is their motto. Their Majesty's work is Prince of Wales. All right, so these guys are all connected to this. All right. They're connected to this Grand Lodge of England, right? These freemen, all right, they were made Masons. And this is how they were able to steal your names, steal your identity, all right? Grand Lodge of England. And again, this is why you hear, what's the chief name? What's my nigga? What's the old head chief name? The Yaqui Indian nigga. Chief Langley, shout out Chief Langley, right? And he says that, well, my grandmother her name is listed, we're still in South Carolina, but her name is listed out in Oklahoma. All right, so these lodges were setting up, all right, and creating these fake tribes, all right, and these lodge members, unfortunately for some of you guys, all right, some of these lodge members were becoming formidable leaders, all right, put in high positions, these Baptist ministers, these Knights of Peter Claver. And again, this video isn't about the Knights of Peter Claver, all right, or these orders, but I just want to show and prove and connect these dots to who's doing what and to whom, all right? Because again, we see President Diaz, and I mean, what's the difference between him and where's this nigga at? All right, where is they at, man? Come on with it. Where they at? I need my, I want to get the image up. All right, we already know he's dressed just like the Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, all right, the Knights of the Golden Circle, because all of these are secret orders. But I wanted the Garvey picture I have, all right, where he's got on the exact same uniform as these guys. Because this is a military order, all right. As I said, these are some of Garvey's guys, and they're part of these Catholic Knights, this military order. I think this is the one. Here it is. No, they got on their robes on this one, all right. Couple, oh yeah, there he is. You see him there, all right, with their regalia on, all right. And they belong to this same order, all right, with your homeboy Rosy Cheeks. All right? What is wrong with that man's face? All right, you have Knights of the Golden Circle, all right, and these are the people who are usurping the Americas. All right, usurping the Americas. President Diaz, dictator, all right? We just read that he literally took over the government, all right? Even in just a brief run-by of this guy's name, all right? Often referred to as Porfirio, and has been characterized as de facto dictatorship, all right? Diaz was born to an Oasa, free and sovereign state, all right? Family. He initially studied for what, folks? To become a priest, right?
All right, one at a time, y'all. We got the Incredible Hulk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
He initially wanted to become a priest, all right? But eventually switched his studies to law, and among his mentors was the future president of Mexico, Benito Juarez, all right? Mexican liberal lawyer and statesman, all right? And these guys are all lodge members. During the Second French intervention in Mexico, Diaz fought the Battle of Puebla. All right? Also known as the Battle of May 5th, took place on 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo. All right, so when you think you're celebrating something, all right, you're celebrating these Freemasons, all right, annihilating your ancestors, all right, which temporarily repulsed the invaders but was captured when the French besieged the city. With reinforcements a year later, he escaped captivity and made his way to Owasa City, becoming political military commander over all southern Mexico and successfully resisting French efforts to advance upon the region. Blah, blah, blah. All right? So he's a hero of the Liberal Party. All right? Here's his wife, Delfina Ortega, First Lady of Mexico. All right? Clearly not Mexican or Yaqui Indian. All right? And we got her early life on here. This is according to Latin American dictators of the 20th century, regimes of 15 rulers. All right, so if you want to go get the books, they're there. All right? And again, they're referencing him as a military ruler, all right, because these orders are military orders. Says the following tabulation shows the spread of Freemasonry under Grand Lodge system since 1717. Starting from the Mother Grand Lodge, free and accepted Masons located in London, England, all recognizing colored Masons everywhere. All right.
Newsflash, you ain't my friend in the first place. You gonna smell my cologne, Yaqui, on some bar number 9, because I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
Tabernacle, sanctuary, because we keep God first in everything we do.
You know,
Hey, pimp.
This is from the official history of Freemasonry. All right. And here you see the star symbol indicates where colored Masons are received. All right. And this is 1717. All right. Colored Masons in London. Colored Masons in Paris, Colored Masons in Ireland, Colored Masons in Scotland, Colored Masons in Spain, Colored Masons in Germany, Colored Masons in India, Colored Masons in Netherlands, Colored Masons in Russia, Colored Masons in Portugal, all right? Colored Masons in Sweden, all right? So for those who say, we're not traveling the world, all right? Well, among the colored people in North America, we are actually very well traveled, according to the secret brotherhood who does not want us to know who we are.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
And it goes on and on. All right, and this is the 1700s. So these military lodges were being established throughout the world, all right? This didn't happen overnight. And as you see here, if you can see, all right, this is from the French Wikipedia, all right? We ain't even translated yet because I wanted you to see, all right, that this isn't a secret. This isn't a secret. Gens de Color Libre, the free people of color, isn't a secret. It's only a secret to you. Right? Let's translate. Let's see what this is about. Let's translate the page and see what France has to say. All right? Translate the page, man. Let's go. I know you don't want it. Fuck, man. Oh, it's doing it right now. Let's get rid of this. What is this? All right, and this I had this tab up because I was wanting to see how this formation of the Knights of Peter Claver, and it really goes with that, 1909. Oh, they doing dumb shit with this. Is related, all right, to these riots, all right. 1917, East St. Louis, 1919, Red Summer, riots, all right, race riots erupted in 26 U.S. cities in 1919, folks. All right, but that's for another bill. Let's get back to the gens they color. Let's translate. All right. Let's translate. What did the French Wikipedia have to say? And if you think it's bullshit, it says Wikipedia l'encyclopédie libre. All right. It's still in French. All right. It says free people of color in the French colonies of the America under the French colonial empire were non-slave, black, and mixed race people of color. People of color, as well as mixed bloods or mulattoes, are individuals born European, African, and Amerindian. All right, and this is according to Carmenella Bionde, the problem people of color in the colonies and in France in the second half of the 18th century. All right, because we just see he was fighting the French. All right, he was fighting the French. Now this free people of color, all right, to mark, it says in Santo Domingo, to mark the distinction with the freed Negroes, all right? Because the free people of color were not, what is the word? Freemen, all right? The terms freemen or former freemen and people of color, mulattoes, have different meanings, all right? These free people of color and these freemen, as we already, and we know who the freemen are, well, it's not the same thing, all right? So these guys can argue all day, all right, until they're white in the face, all right? This is the distinction. They're not the same people. The terms freemen, former freemen, and people of color, mulattoes, have different meanings, but they cover the same general idea. Freeman, a term that meant ex-slave, was widely used by whites to refer to all free people of color. In Santo Domingo, after slavery was abolished in the colony, the term former freeman was widely used to refer to those people who were free before the general emancipation of 1793. People of color was another term applied to free people of color, but specifically to people of mixed origin as opposed to free blacks, all right? They're distinguishing the Amerindians from the African slaves. This term was never used for enslaved people. The term mulattoes refers to those of mixed French and African origin, and to free people usually referred to because mulattoes were frequently placed free by their white fathers due to varying degrees of guilt and concern on the part of the fathers. However, there were a number of mulattoes who remained in slavery. The other freedmen, about 12,000, were black slaves who had bought or received their freedom from their masters. All right, here you see one of these knights, all right, the Knight of St. George, all right, better known by the pseudonym of Chevalier de St. George, a man of color, all right, pursued a relatively exceptional artistic and sporting career in the court society of the Age of Enlightenment, which was nevertheless subject to many prejudices about social belonging and skin color. He took part in the French Revolution and took command of the American Free Legion. All right, are we looking at the real George Washington, folks? Joseph Bologna of St. George. Are we looking at Monsieur St. George? All right, let's zoom in on this guy, all right? Have we found the real George Washington, folks? All right, we'll have to get more into that later. All right, but just to show and prove, these guys, they're not doing any research, folks. All right, let's save that image. Let's save that. We got to save that, folks. We got to save that. Let's get St. George up here on the main screen. We got to put St. George on the goddamn Summer Jam, all right? We got to put St. George on the Summer Jam screen. Let's get St. George on the Summer Jam screen. Get that man up here, man. All right, let's get rid of this guy. Let's get St. George on the Summer Jam ASAP. They don't want to, you know they don't want this. All right, they don't want us cooking like we cook, but we can't be stopped. All right, so these orders, and like I said, this is what led us to the Knights of St. Peter Claver. All right, this is the common thread. These are the Black Knights. What's going on? Let's get rid of some of these images. Maybe that'll help. How many we got? Boom. Let's put them on the summer jam. Let's get good old Georgie on the summer jam screen. All right. These nights. All right. So we educated these guys. All right. And clearly, all right, they didn't keep their end of the deal. Chevalier de St. George, all right, born December 25th, 1745, in Bailiff near Basseterre, Guadeloupe, all right, and died in France, all right, and again, this is some old French shit, all right, let's translate it. Guadeloupe, Guadeloupe. Christopher Columbus landed there, gives it the name Guadalupe in homage to the Virgin, all right, protector of the navigators of Our Lady of Guadalupe. All right, so again, here is our connection to these Catholic knights. All right, Virgin Lady of Our Lady of Guadalupe. All right, let me get a better view of that. All right, and we'll get into what this is all about, because these guys are these Roman guys, this Catholic Church, all right, their worship of the sun and Isis, all right, because really they're practicing Babylonian mysticism, for lack of better terms, all right, and this isn't even Isis. Excuse me, this isn't even Mary, all right, it is Isis, all right, and again, that's another build, but these people have been indoctrinated, all right, against you, all right? Some of the sisters of Peter Claver, all right, who are helping to orchestrate this lie. Let's get back to the reading. So we can clearly see the connection, all right? We can clearly see the connection. Because they're free Negroes registered everywhere, all right? We got the registers on deck, all right? So it's no issue. We got them on deck. Let's get back to the reading, all right? And here, again, these knights, these brotherhoods, all right? All over the world. South Africa, Cape Town, 1772, all right? This isn't new. Bahamas, St. Lucia, St. Bartholomew, all right, Cuba, Havana, Egypt, 1802, all right, and this is still during so-called slavery period. Put some gems in the chat if you can still hear me loudly and clearly. I haven't had the opportunity to look at the chat. I'm just trying to keep track of all this, all right. Algeria, 1832. Where have we not been? These are, again, knighted colored lodge members all over the world. The star, the asterisk, all right, represents the colored lodge members, all right, 1867, all right, Liberia. Let's get back to the book. And again, when you go to the list of African American fraternities, all right, sororities, who predominantly recruit black college students and provide a network, all right? When you go to the history, well, the first thing you see is Prince Hall Freemasonry, all right? Black fraternal organization. The first Greek letter fraternal organization was Alpha Kappa Nu at Indiana University in 1903. Wilberforce University is where Gamma Phi was established in 1905. All right, so these things were established before we see the Knights of Peter Claver being established, all right? And again, this is all under the same lodge, all right? Under the National Grand Lodge. All right? Let's get back to the reading. Wonderful Mexican palaces, wonderful Mexican gardens, a wonderful fairyland conjured out of slavery, slavery of Mayas and of Yaquis. Among the Yucatán slaves are 10 Mayas to 1 Yaquis, and you know that's where I believe we got muted, and I want to reiterate that. All right, who these guys who are being exterminated? All right, these alcaldes, and I understand why it was being muted. All right, traditional Spanish municipal magistrates, all right, who had both judicial and administrative functions. All right, the alcalde was in the absence of the corregidor, the presiding officer over the Castilian caballero. All right, a woman who holds this office is termed an alcaldesa. All right, and I don't want to get that clear so there's no confusion. All right, and this is said to be Spanish, and we know that Spanish is derived from Arabic. All right. Here's the Mayan alcaldes from Guatemala dating 1891. All right, at the same time that this coup is happening. All right. Alcalde was also a title given to indigenous Native Americans, leaders inside the Spanish missions who performed a large variety of duties for the Franciscan missionaries. All right, and this is according to Social Control, Political Accommodations, and Indian Rebellion, Children of Coyote, Missionaries of St. Francis, Indian-Spanish Relations in Colonial California, 1769 to 1850, if you want to go get the book. All right. Title given to the indigenous Native Americans, all right, with medieval origins. All right. The title alcalde was borrowed from Arabic alcalde, meaning the judge. All right. Meaning the judge. The word alcalde originally was used for simple judges as in Andalusian Arabic. Only later was it applied to the preceding municipal magistrates. This early use continued to be reflected in its other uses. All right. Where is the, and we know that this is where you get the modern mayor from. All right, in modern Spanish, the term alcalde is equivalent to a mayor and is used to mean the local executive officer of municipalities throughout Spain and Latin America. For example, the title alcalde continued to be used in Spanish-speaking American Commonwealth of Puerto Rico after the occupation of the island during the Spanish-American War in 1898. Now, why would you continue to call these guys the judges in Arabic in Puerto Rico? All right. The city of Sonoma, California, has a tradition to name an honorary title of alcalde or alcaldesa to preside over ceremonial events in the city, with a mayor being the official position of city governor, folks.
All right, one at a time, y'all. We got the Incredible Hulk in the building. What's up, man?
So what are we talking about? Right? These people are being exterminated. Right? In Belize, any rural community may appoint an alcalde. The alcalde serves both judicial and administrative functions and is paid a small stipend by the government. Wait, this is going on in Belize? Well, that's going to be very, very interesting. All right, when we take a look at this map. Where is the map at? Let's get this map up here. Get rid of some of these photos so we can see what we got. Get this murderer out of here. All right, more Yaqui Indians. Where is the map? All right, so now that we know that these Mayans are being exterminated here in Sonora, well, they're telling us there are alcaldes all the way down here to the bottom right. If you see the thumb on the hand on the screen, folks, it's pointing to Belize. All right, so now we see that this system of alcaldes and alcaldesas, all right, based on Islamic jurisprudence, whether you like it or not, folks, all right, is being utilized from Belize to Sonora. I believe that is the entirety of the Yucatan.
Subscribe to the Unconquered Tribe. You are now live with the incredible host.
Wow,
This
Indian
is Hope
TV.
School for the Gifted and the Elect.
Put some gems in the chat if you can hear me loudly and clearly. All right? And we'll move on. All right? These are the Mayan alcaldes before the overthrow. All right? And this is why you see them being hung. Yaqui Indians lynched by Mexicans. All right? By these bath orders. I wanted to pull up a little more on the bath order, but I'm going to do that in a separate build. It says they are dying in a strange land. They are dying faster, and they are dying alone, away from their families. For every Yaqui family sent to Yucatan is broken up on the way. Husbands and wives are torn apart, and babes are taken from their mother's breast. All right, so these former mayors, these former judges, all right, are being deported. All right. The extermination of the Yaqui began in war. Its finish is being accomplished in deportation and slavery. The Yaquis are called Indians. All right. Like the Mayas of the Yucatan, they are Indians, and yet they are not Indians. In the United States, we would not call them Indians, for they are workers. Now, that's very interesting, because there's a lot of guys who say Indian means slave, Indian means worker. All right, and we see this guy who's in the land, all right, where this is going on in 1908, I believe it is. All right, Barbarous, Mexico is the title of the book. And he says in the United States, we would not call them Indians, for they are workers. As far back as their history can be traced, they have never been savages. They have been an agricultural people. They tilled the soil, discovered and developed mines, folks. All right, because these guys were trying to tell me, oh, well, they were primitive. Oh, that's not California. Sonora isn't in America. That doesn't have anything to do with America, but I guess because of this red line that's on the screen. All right. These guys have nothing. They can't dispute anything that we bring, tribe. All right? They can't dispute anything that we bring in. That's why they stay away from here, right? And why these guys are arguing about what the moon's made of and underground moon bases and all types of tomfoolery. All right, we're really, really getting to the research and connecting the dots. I said as far back as their history can be traced, they have never been savages. They have been an agricultural people. They tilled the soil, discovered and developed mines, constructed systems of irrigation, built adobe towns, folks, all right? Maintained public schools. Wait, what? Had an organized government and their own mint. Well, we're going to need to do some vocabulary words here, all right? Because that was quite a mouthful, no diddy, all right? They have their own mint. They build adobe towns. Well, what is adobe? What is an adobe town? You'll be very interested to find out, folks. All right, that again, I will reiterate that the etymology of the word adobe, all right, has its roots in Arabic. All right, al-tob. Atob, the brick. All right. So again, we see this culture permeating in the lands of the Americas. They built adobe towns, and they had a mint. Well, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a peppermint, all right? Because all they had for those guys was a whole lot of cornmeal. So what is a mint? All right, we know it's not a herb. Well, it must be the second form of the noun. Well, what's the second form of a noun? It says a place where money is coined. Right? From Latin moneta, mint, see money. An earlier word for a place where money is coined. Wait, so they have a mine and they're minting their own coins? And you want to tell me there's nothing going on in the Southwest, that these aren't our people, that we're not all over the Americas, when they clearly said that they were executing the Dark Indians, right? The Pimas and Opatas and other Indians, Mexicans, and any dark people found who were poor and unable to protect themselves were taken, tagged as Yaquis, and sent away to the land of the Hennecken. What do they have to say about that, folks? All right? When they want to say that the American Negro wasn't already here, that we weren't already thriving with societies. We've just shown and proved that there is a very well-established infrastructure here. These so-called Indians, well, they have their own mint, folks. Right. I digress. They tilled the soil, discovered and developed mines, constructed systems of irrigation, built adobe towns, maintained public schools, had an organized government, and their own mint. Please screenshot that. When the Spanish missionaries came among them, they were in possession of practically the whole of that vast territory. I said, when the Spanish missionaries came among them, they were in possession of practically the whole of that vast territory south of Arizona, which today comprises the state of Sonora. They are the best workers in Sonora. Colonel Francisco B. Cruz, the very man who has charge of their deportation, all right, and of whom I will have more to say later, told me one Yaqui laborer is worth 2 ordinary Americans and 3 ordinary Mexicans. All right, so these are extraordinary Americans, if you have any type of reading comprehension. The Yaqui certainly has an admirable physical development. During my journeys in Mexico, I learned to pick him out at a glance by his broad shoulders, his deep chest, his sinewy legs, his rugged face. This typical Yaqui is almost a giant. All right? A race of athletes. So where are these people in Mexico, folks? All right? Because we don't know any giants with broad shoulders. All right? In Mexico now. Perhaps that is just the reason why he has not bent his head in submission to the will of the masters of Mexico. American mine owners and railroad men of Sonora are repeatedly complaining against the deportation of the Yaquis, and it is because they are such good workmen. Well, if these guys are only in Mexico, right, these Indians, these Mayans, these Yaquis, why are the American mine owners and railroad men complaining? Another matter which I have heard much remarked about by border Americans is the regard of the so-called renegade or fighting Yaquis for the property of Americans and other foreigners. When the Yaquis first took up arms against the present government some 25 years ago, they did so because of a definite grievance. Usually they fought on the defensive, driven to the mountains. They have been compelled at times to sally forth and plunder for their stomach's sake, but for many years it was known to all men that they seldom attacked Americans or any people but Mexicans. And for a long time, they never committed any depredations on railroads or railroad property, which in Sonora has always been American. The origin of the Yaqui troubles is generally attributed to a plot on the part of a number of politicians, the purposes being to get possession of the rich lands in southern Sonora, which the Yaquis had held for hundreds of years, folks. For hundreds of years. For 24 years past, the only governor Sonora have been, what the hell is that? Ramon Corral, now Diaz's vice president, Rafael Zabal, all right, and Luis Torres. These three have rotated in office, as it were, for more than a generation. There's no popular elections were held at all. These three friends had absolutely no one to answer to except President Diaz. And their authority in Sonora had been practically absolute. All right. And you can see these members of the order, these swarthy Moors, all right? It's very troubling, folks, all right? And you can clearly see these guys are a whole bunch of Mystick Turks, all right?
I wonder what is the emergency. I hear shots! Okay, ma'am, calm down. What kind of shots?
A whole bunch of Mystick Turks. These guys are in the same uniforms, all right? Knights of the Golden Circle guys, in the same uniforms. The Yaquis seem to have had a pretty good title to their land when Corral, Zabal, and Torres came upon the scene. At the time of the Spanish conquest, they were a nation of from 1 to 200,000 people, folks. All right? A nation from 1 to 200,000 people, supposed by some authorities to have been offshoots from the Aztecs. The Spanish were never able to subdue them completely, and after 250 troublous years, a peace was entered of it. The King of Spain gave them a patent signed by his own hand. This was nearly 150 years ago. But the royal patent was honored by every ruler and chief executive of Mexico down to Diaz. During all that time, the Yaqui were at peace with the world. Their reputation as a naturally peaceful nation was established and remained for the government of Diaz to stir them into war. During these years of peace, the Yaqui became part and parcel of the Mexican nation. They lived like other Mexicans. They had their own personal farms, their own homes, and they paid taxes on their property like other Mexicans. During the war against Maximilian, they sent soldiers to help Mexico, and many of them distinguished themselves by brilliant service, but the Yaquis were goaded into war. The men at the head of the government of Sonora wanted the Yaqui lands. Moreover, they saw an opportunity for a graft in bringing a large body of soldiers into the state. So they harassed the Yaquis. They sent bogus surveyors through the Yaqui Valley to mark out the land and tell the people that the government had decided to give it to foreigners. They confiscated $80,000 in a bank belonging to Chief Cajemé. Finally, they sent armed men to arrest Cajemé, and when the latter could not find him, they set fire to his house and to those of his neighbors and assaulted the women of the village, even Cajemé's wife, not being respected. Finally, the victims were goaded into war. Since that day, 25 years ago, the Mexican government has maintained an army almost perpetually in the field against the Yaquis, an army ranging in numbers from 2,000 to 6,000 men. Thousands of soldiers and tens of thousands of Yaquis have been killed in battle, and many hundred of the latter have been executed after being taken prisoner. After a few years, Chief Cajemé was captured and publicly executed in the presence of a large body of his people who had been taken prisoner with him. Tita Biate, another Yaqui, was promptly elected to Cajemé's place, and the fight went on. Finally, in 1894, at one fell swoop, as it were, the ground was literally taken from under the feet of the rebels. By acts of the federal government, the best of their lands were taken from them and handed over to one man, General Lorenzo Torres, who is at this writing chief of the army of Sonora, then second in command. The government is credited with having been guilty of the most horrible atrocities. 2 examples are cited by Santa de Cabora, a Mexican writer, as follows. On May 17, 1892, General Otero of the Mexican army ordered the imprisonment of the Yaquis men and children in the town of Navajoa and hung so many of these people that the supply of rope in the town was exhausted, it being necessary to use each rope 5 or 6 times. A colonel in the army, Antonio Rincon, in July of 1892, took 200 Yaqui men, women and children prisoners, and carried them in the gunboat El Democrata and dropped them in the ocean between the mouth of the Yaqui River and the seaport of Guaymas, all of them perishing. And just so you know, I'm not making up this connection with these Catholic Knights and the church, all right, because we will be doing an extensive build on not only the Knights of Peter Claver and the Brotherhood, but also we have some more builds coming up on this Bath Society, the cult of Isis, all right, which this Catholic Church really represents. And how that connects. All right, but first we want to show and prove on how these Indians' land is being usurped, who have actual mint and schools and pay taxes and are judges and study Islamic jurisprudence. Since no man can rule, and I'm going to skip forward a bit, since no man can rule an unwilling people without taking away the liberties of that people, it can be very easily understood what sort of regime General Diaz found it necessary to establish in order to make his power secure. By the use of the army and the police powers generally, he controlled elections, the press and public speech, and made of popular government a farce by distributing the public offices among his generals and granting them free rein to plunder at will. He assured himself of the continued use of the army by making political combinations with men in the high esteem of, well, folks, Catholic Church.
Subscribe to the Unconquered Tribe. You are now live with the incredible host.
Wow,
This is Hope School for the Gifted and the Elect.
And permitting it to be whispered about that the church was to regain some of its former power, he gained silent support of the priest and the Pope by promising full payment of all foreign debts and launching at once upon a policy of distributing favors among citizens of other countries. He made his peace with the world at large. So this is what these guys have been doing for over a century. All right? Over a century. Usurping the wealth of the Americas, all right, and giving it over to these foreign lodges. Put some gems in the chat if you can still hear me loudly and clearly. I guess everybody's hiding in the bushes, all right? Nobody's commenting except Navi and DJ ZPE. Shout out to y'all for tuning in. Tribe. Shout out to American Isness, Peace and Bliss. Good Green in the building. Equator 7 in the building. Tribe. For the world to see, media in the building. Salute. All right, so we really teaching over here. By promising full payment of all foreign debts and launching at once upon a policy of distributing favors among citizens of other countries, he made his peace with the world at large. All right. And here's a very interesting take on how this land was usurped, all right, just so you don't think I'm just saying some shit, all right, like a lot of these guys who aren't doing any real research, all right. Chief among the methods, we'll start here at the second paragraph. chief among the methods used in getting the lands away from the people. And this is method being used in Mexico, okay, by these same guys, these same brotherhood members, these freemen, if you will. All right. And these methods are being explained here in this book, and they're being used everywhere. All right. Please share the live stream if you haven't. I do appreciate it. Shout out to everybody who supports the channel. I do it for us. All right. We dropping real jewels. Shout out to Nadi in the chat. Tribe. All right. Now it says, chief among the methods used in getting the lands away from the people in general was through a land registration law, which Diaz fathered. This law permitted any person, folks, to go out and claim any lands to which the possessor could not prove a recorded title. All right, and you see this with this Indian Bureau of Affairs and refugees, all right, and abandoned lands, quote unquote, abandoned lands, folks, all right. This law permitted any person to go out and claim any lands to which the possessor could not prove a recorded title. Since up to the time the law was enacted, it was not the custom to record titles. Wait, what? I said, since up to the time the law was enacted, it was not the custom to record titles. This meant all the lands of Mexico. So there were no titles, all right? They made them. They created them. They pulled them out of thin air, right? This law permitted any person to go out and claim any lands to which the possessor could not prove a recorded title. Since up to that time, up to that time the law was enacted, it was not the custom to record titles. This is a trick bag, folks. All right? So nobody has car titles. Imagine, just to make it simple. You buy a car, all right? You own a car, you don't have a title, all right? Nobody has car titles. Then they make a law that says, well, anybody who doesn't have a car title, you could claim their car. And then somewhere, all right, some group of brothers, for lack of better terms, find themselves in possession of these titles that have been fabricated and created out of thin air. Created out of thin air, folks. When a man possessed a home which his father had possessed before him, and which his grandfather had possessed, which his great-grandfather possessed, and which had been in the family as far back as history knew, then he considered that he owned that home. All of his neighbors considered that he owned it, and all governments up to that of Diaz recognized his right to that home. All right? Because we've always been in the land. We didn't have these issues, folks. All right? That was your daddy house. That was your granddaddy house. That was his daddy house. That was his granddaddy house. Nobody's arguing. Yeah, they've been staying there for hundreds of years. Supposing that a strict registration law became necessary in the course of evolution, had this law been enacted for the purpose of protecting the landowners, all right, instead of plundering from them, the government would naturally have sent agents through the country to apprise the people of the new law and to help them register their property and keep their homes.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
Subscribe to the Unconquered Tribe. You are now live with the incredible host.
Wow,
This
Indian
is House
TV.
School for the Gifted and the Elect.
I said, supposing that a strict registration law became necessary in the course of evolution, had this law been enacted for the purpose of protecting the landowner instead of plundering from them, the government would have, the government would have naturally sent agents through the country to apprise the people of the new law and to help them register their property and keep their homes. But this was not done, and the conclusion is inevitable that the law was passed for the purpose of plundering, folks. Not all events the result of the law was a plundering. No sooner had it been passed than the aforesaid members of the governmental machine, headed by the father-in-law of Diaz and Diaz himself, formed land companies and sent out agents, not to help the people keep their lands, but to select the most desirable lands in the country, register them, and evict the owners. This they did on a most tremendous scale, thus hundreds of thousands of small farmers lost their property. Thus, small farmers are still losing their property. In order to cite an example, I reprint a dispatch dated Merida, Yucatan, April 11th, 1909, folks. The same year that we find the founding of the Knights of St. Peter Claver. These same orders popping up all over the continent of North America, these military lodges, and these people making land claims, right? With their new documents. Published April 12th in the Mexican Herald, an American daily newspaper printed in Mexico City. Meridia, April 11th. Minister Olegario Molina of the Department of Fomento, Colonization and Industry, folks, has made a denouncement before the agency here of extensive territory lying adjacent to his land in Tizman, Partido. The denouncement was made through Esteban Rijon Garcia, his administrator at that place. The section was taken on the ground that those now occupying them have no documents or titles of ownership. Well, nobody has titles of ownership. They measure 27 hectares, about 6,000 acres, or over 9,000 square miles, folks. Over 9 square miles, 6,000 acres over 9 square miles, and include perfectly organized towns, some fine ranches, including those of Loreno Brasino and Rafael Aguila, and other properties. The Jefe Politico of Tizman has notified the populations of this town. All right? So they're putting everybody on notice. We're creating documents and we're seizing the land. All right? And that's why these guys always want to point you to the Dawes Rolls and Freeman this and all of this, because these guys are all part of the scammers. All right? The owners and laborers are on the ranches and others of the lands that they will be obliged to vacate within 2 months or become subject to the new owner. Right? So if they don't leave the land, then you become a slave to the new owner. These freemen. The present occupants have lived for years upon the land, have cultivated it and improved much of it. Some have lived there from generation to generation and have thought themselves the rightful owners, having inherited it from the original quote-unquote squatters. Mr. Rejon Garcia has also denounced other similar public lands. All right? And this is the views of the usurpers. Says another favorite means of confiscating the homes of small owners is found in the juggling of state taxes. State taxes in Mexico are fearfully and wonderfully made. Especially in the less populous district, owners are taxed inversely as they stand in favor with the personality who represents the government in their particular district. All right? So if you're not in the brotherhood, then you're getting screwed. Diddy, but no Diddy. All right? No court, board, or other responsible body sits to review unjust assessments. The Jefe Politico may charge one farmer 5 times as much per acre as he charges the farmer across the fence. All right? And this is the method they use to steal our land. All right? Those who are willing to play ball, all right? Those who are willing to be baptized, all right? To join this order of the bath. I mean, it's not a secret. It's not even a secret. Order of the Bath is a special order of knights which recognizes the work of a senior military officials and civil servants. To be a knight ordained Grand Cross or the order is recognized as the highest British military order obtainable in Britain. All right? It's not a secret. All right, you see these same crosses? British Order of Chivalry. Knights of the Bath. All right, coat of arms. All right, so when you see these guys talking about their coats of arms, it's coming from England, from these guys. All right. Admiral of the Fleet, Sir George Callahan. Royal Navy. All right. Now how can they be the Admiral of the Fleet? What's an admiral? When did these Catholics become the admiral? All right. What is an admiral? 1200. Saracen commander or chieftain from Old French. Saracen military commander. Any military commander, ultimately from medieval Arabic emir. Military commandeer, probably via medieval Latin, use of the word for Muslim military leader. Admiral de la Mare.
Subscribe to the Unconquered Tribe. You are now live with the incredible host.
Wow,
This
Indian
is Hulk
TV.
School for the gifted and the elect.
So these brotherhoods, all right, and just to connect some more dots, all right, when I come to deal with the American partners of Diaz, I mention those of no other nationality in that same breath, but it be well to bear in mind that England especially is nearly as heavily as interested in Mexico as is the United States, all right? Excuse me. So there is no conspiracy, all right, with what I'm doing here, with what's being revealed. While this country has 900 million, these are the figures given by Consul General Shanklin about the first year of 1910. All right, so I think this may be 1912. It's page 135. Let's go to the cover. 135. Let's go to the cover. Barbarous, Mexico. All right, John Kenneth Turner. We don't want no excuses, no mistakes, all right? Nothing to debunk. There's no conspiracy. It's just the truth, all right? Let's go to the copyright. $1910, all right? So I was off by a couple years, all right? So we were off by a couple years. I digress. 134. All right, because it's a 340-page book, guys. All right, so it's quite a bit. And here he's just talking about the military. All right, let's go back to reading about their investment. I believe it was here. All right, so while this country has 900 million, all right, invested in Mexico, all right, England, according to the South American Journal, has 750 million, all right? However, these figures by no means represent the ratio between the degree of political influence exerted by the two countries. There are the United States, best all the other countries combined. Yet there are two English corporations so closely identified with the Mexican financial ring as to deserve special mention. They are the combination represented by Dr. F.S. Pearson of Canada and London, all right? And the other corporation distinct from the first, S. Pearson and Son Limited of Dr. F.S. Pearson, is boasted that he can get any concession that he wants in Mexico, barring alone such a one as would antagonize other foreign interests equally powerful. Dr. Pearson owns the electric railway system of the Federal District and furnishes the vast quantity of electric light and power used in that political division of Mexico. This is 1910, folks. Among other things, he is also a strong power along the American border, where he and his associates own the Mexican Northwestern Railroad and several smaller lines, as well as vast tracts of land and huge lumber interests. In Chihuahua, he is establishing a large steel plant, and in El Paso, just across the line, he is building a $500,000 sawmill as part of his Mexican projects. as Pearson and Son have been given so many valuable concessions in Mexico that they are responsible for the invention of the term the partners of Diaz.
All right, one at a time, y'all. We got the Incredible Hulk in the building. What's up, man?
Oh, shit.
The partners of Diaz, folks. All right. And I don't know how long this is going, but we're going to do a couple reaction videos coming up, all right? And if you want us to react to a video, you can send it to my Twitter at HawkSchool1, all right? And we're just going to pick from them and react to them, all right? Put our 2 cents in. But I wanted to deal with this order of the bath, all right, and how this land was being taken, and who really controlled the land, and what system were they using to control these lands. And again, we see the Mayan alcaldes from Belize to Sonora, all right. This is very important to trade, folks, all right. Very important to trade. I've been a little behind because I got a lot of other shit going on, so I haven't been able to go live like usual, all right? Let's see, what do we have marked in here? Colored mace. What's page 320? What's on here? Book of the Law. All right, this is just a whole bunch of more proof of what I say, all right? By an ancient usage in the craft, the book of the law is always spread open in the lodge, all right? I told them that the Bible is the book of the law, all right, for Freemasons. And here it is in their own writing, all right? There is in this, as is everything else that is Masonic and appropriate symbolism, the book of the law is the great light of Masonry. To close it would be to intercept the rays of divine light which emanate from it, and hence it is spread open to indicate that the lodge is not in darkness, but under the influence of an illuminating power. Masons in this respect obey the suggestions of the divine founders of the Christian religion. All right, so when you see these church guys with their Bibles, all right, it's not about church, guys. All right, it's not about church. Yeah, we got all their little rituals, all right? We got all their little rituals. Talking about what they had to go through, blah, blah, blah. But I just wanted to show and prove that these are the freemen, all right? Usurping the power of the alcaldes, all right? The indigenous leaders. The indigenous leaders, folks. All right? I mean, there's nothing really to debate. There's nothing to debate. There was something else I wanted to, modern usage, all right? Again, this is where we get the mayoral system of today, all right? So this is being used even today. All right, 1882, they're a little tardy to the party. All right, to act like they created some mayoral system. I think that's quite a bit for this bill. All right, because I don't want it to be too much for you to digest, all right? So these Yaqui Indians, all right, and if you haven't seen part 1, we'll leave the part 1 in the description so you could get caught up on all of this, all right, so that you know the truth behind these orders. Let's get them up on the Summer Jam.
To the unconquered tribe, you are now live with the incredible Hulk.
Wow,
this
Indian
is Hulk
TV.
School for the gifted and the elect.
These guys are all the same. They're all the same. All right. And this is why we see them continue to do what they do. And I think we'll end it with the video, all right? With the knight actually talking about the females. Is it the females? Let's see which one this is. It's more of your uncles. All right, selling their souls. I wanted to... I think we'll just leave it right there, folks. Shout out to everybody who's tuned in. Shout out to Monaga, Tribe. Now we can connect some dots. You know what I'm talking about? And niggas can feel however they want to feel, bro. Like, I really don't give a fuck. You know what I'm talking about? Straight up.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
These niggas don't know who they have an allegiance to. All right? Because they don't know that Arabic, Kufic Arabic, all right, dating from sometime after 650 AD and replicated from an engraving at the Alto Rock in the Valley of Fire, Nevada, formerly regarded as a meaningless Indian petroglyph, all right, a Muslim name for the tranquil, in Kufic Arabic, all right, Kufic Arabic. Line A, what's line A? Shown in A is the style of Arabic script in most general use. All right, most general use. In the Arab world today, the letters in use by the Cree and Ojibwe tribes are shown in B, and very similar forms have been adopted by other Algonquin tribes about 1950. A slightly modified form was adopted by the Eskimos of Canada. All right, they're super late to the party, folks. All right, so here you see line A is modern Arabic. Line B is Algonquin script. All right, and again, you see above line A is modern Arabic. Line B is an Algonquin script. All right, so this isn't anything I'm making up, folks. All right, these adobe towns, all right, pueblos of New Mexico. Oh, these aren't the pueblos of New Mexico. These are Jabal Nafasa, an inland in Tripolitania, overlooking the plain of Jafara. What you thought that was in? What you thought? No, that's in North Africa, right? These Mayans and these Yaquis that they're killing, that have a mint, that have schools, that pay taxes, who study Islamic jurisprudence, all right? Well, these are the same structures that are being built in North Africa. You can go look it up yourself. All right? We ruled the world, whether they like it or not, folks. All right? Your afro didn't come from Africa. All right? Came from your white slaves. All right? Your Circassians.
I want you to do your research and spread truth, which is liberation. People are living lives. Our history has been completely changed in order to meet the lives of this country.
And it's known, it's written, that the righteous shall inherit the kingdom of God, the earth. And the wicked shall be shaken out.
Asking, what has he really done for y'all? Or do y'all only accept him because your pastors that you listen to on YouTube told y'all to accept him?
You gonna smell my cologne, intimate Yaqui, on the bar number 9, because I do not play.
That's the same clone I wear.
Tabernacle, sanctuary, because we keep God first in everything we do.
Hey, pimp.
You are cut down to the ground. You who weaken the nation.
son look mad hurt, you know what I mean? Yo.
And it's known, it's written, that the righteous shall inherit the kingdom of God, the earth. And the wicked shall be shaken out.
Now we can settle this like you got some class, so we can get into some gangsters.